Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of After the Snuff. I'm your host, John Millsip, and today I am recapping. We're at the end of the season of Corkscrew Cove, and I have the pleasure of sitting down and talking to our fourth place and third place finishers, Bryant and Hathaway. How are you two doing today? I hope you're ready to dive right into this game because there are a lot for both of you to talk about tonight.
I'm doing good. I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. It was a wild ride of a season. It was nice to see it all play back. So,
Well, now that it has all played back, let's just start with like general impressions of everything now you've seen it back. Bryant, how do you feel about the whole game experience now that it's like coming to a close here?
you know, if you had asked me as soon as the game ended if I'd ever play one again, I would have said a wholehearted no, never. But looking back, I made a lot of good friends. I really love everyone in the cast. And it was really fun. I don't have a ton of like friends in my real life who are fans of Survivor as well, so it was like nice to be able to do that. And yeah, it was really cool. I really appreciated being able to see it all play back. I know all the work you all put into it behind the scenes is immense. And that was really, really nice to see it all. So for good and bad. So
And Hathaway, how about you? After seeing it all play back and living it again many months later, how's it feel?
Well, similar to Bryant, except I probably went the other way. You could ask me 10 years from now, and I would never play this again. And that's not to say I didn't have enjoyment out of it and make friends and like I just had no idea what I was getting into with like the org thing, and it was just not for me. So if I'm gonna be a one and done, I'm glad to have been a finalist and to have this experience. But yeah, I think the live games are more my speed. So, but it was fun.
Totally. Good. And that's what really matters. The fun is the
Yeah.
part that we care about. So let's dive into this because you two both get to the end of the game. You experience the entire thing, and you kind of started with very different starts to the game here. Bryant, we're going to start with you because you had a wild first round here.
really, was it?
Well, I mean, you get into your first tribe, the Gerstlauer tribe, who, I mean, as the game progresses, we find out can't get on the same page about anything. And you immediately get into the partner pair challenge here with Sam, and you two manage to win that first challenge, and you receive this idol. So tell me what that's like. At the very beginning of the game, you already have an advantage in your pocket.
Oh my gosh, it was so cool. I didn't go into this planning to find anything. I would try, but I don't think it's good to rely on that. So to have that advantage at the beginning was really, really cool. There were a lot of cons to it, I think, as well. I think all advantages this season had a bunch of cons just based on how they all played out. But yeah, no, it was really, really cool. I thought, at the time, I was like, this could be a really cool way to bond me and Sam in blood because we have dirt on each other, and if we don't play together. So, but yeah, no, it was an awesome feeling to wake up and see that message.
I think you have a really good point there, where the winning of the advantage is almost a stronger way of bonding these partners and making them have to cooperate with each other more because there is that ammunition there. I mean, even if we look ahead to the merge, right, where Katz gets the idol on that group call and Erin knows about it, and then the divas have to, disseminate that information after the Benji vote to get ahead of Erin doing so. It is really powerful just knowing someone has an advantage right off the bat. And Hathaway, conversely, like you and Tawni don't end up getting an advantage at the beginning here. But we do see, like in those early portions of the game, you and Tawni seem to have a pretty amicable relationship and are talking a bit more than some of these other partners are. So what was your experience with the partner twist?
It was interesting. I don't know if we're talking specifically like round one. But yeah, I mean, it was an interesting twist. And I think you're kind of dumb to not try to create a relationship there. Because that is the twist, like the big twist of the season. So like you should always try to work that as far as you can. So yeah, I thought it was fun, and I don't know. At least in the early game, things seemed good.
Yeah, I loved it the first 2 rounds. After
Yeah.
that, get it out of here.
Yeah, it really gets a little harder when all of a sudden you're being swapped with those partners all the time. But we have a couple of things to talk about before we get to that, because we have this Gerstlauer tribe first tribal council. And we see in the episodes, Bryant, you are in this kind of group with Jared and Tawni and Benji to start. And they're kind of making the decision, you know what? Let's just take out Gabby here. Should be an easy first vote. And you kind of say, you know what? I don't think so. I kind of like Gabby and want her to stick around. And you decide to use this immunity idol you've already just got immediately on Gabby. Walk me through this process. Like, what was it with that original grouping that you weren't feeling great about? And why ultimately did you decide to save Gabby?
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of things that kind of went into my choice to play it at the first tribal, because one of the things that went into me possibly not playing it was being like, no one ever plays an idol at first tribal. That's ridiculous. But first, I felt really good with Benji. Benji was the second person I talked to after Gabby. Gabby was the first person I talked to immediately after the marooning. But I felt good with Benji, but then I noticed I was the last person to be brought in to this 4, which, is fine for 1 or 2 tribals. But then, it didn't feel good with my positioning in the game, especially knowing that they wanted to target the only other person I connected with at first. And, I could have probably been like, no, I don't want to vote Gabby, but not knowing how they play, and I didn't think pushing back on it was a good idea, because I don't know who they know, because I gathered really quickly that the org community is really small. So and I learned that one of the first things Ryan told me was that he and Kolby had played a game together, I think on Instagram or whatever the kids do. And so I was like, oh, okay, I don't know what their relationships are. And I did make a slight lie to cover my tracks, but Jared never said that he had targeted newbies in his season. He said something along the lines of newbies had been targeted, or something about newbies, which also gave me a weird feeling, because that's an easy way to get numbers. And in Survivor, you can connect over the smallest things. So I really wanted to avoid that. So that's really what made me not feel great about it. I felt fine with Tawni. We had only talked a couple times. Oh, and then one other thing, we had this big group call, or not a group call. It was the 4. It was me, Jared, Tawni, and Gabby, I think, were on a game night. And Gabby left, and then they immediately started to talk about voting Gabby out. And then I was on, that call was so long. I was just sitting there in silence for so long, just waiting to see if they were going to talk any more game. And it felt like they were waiting for me to get off the call, which I don't think that was the case, but it felt that way to me. And already knowing I was at the bottom of that group, that just didn't feel good. It did not jive.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sometimes you just have to go with your intuition in a moment like that as to whether or not something's working for you. And clearly you establish yourself a ride or die partnership by playing your idol on Gabby. The two of you were in lockstep for the rest of the game. And in fact, to the point where it almost doesn't make sense that Josh went over either you or Gabby at that second tribal council after the swap.
Yeah. And something that was really important to me is, when one of the factors that went into playing it on Gabby, aside from I figured I would have a pretty rock steady ally, was that somebody knew about the idol. like somebody on the other tribe. I had no idea what Sam's relationship was with anyone on the other tribe. I didn't know if he told anybody about the idol. I didn't know anything. And if somebody knows about your advantage, you get screwed. Like this season, everybody who had an advantage except me and Aaron got screwed in some way, because people knew about it.
No, or even just like on season 46, like
Yeah.
everyone, as soon as someone knows about your idol, you're gone, you're cooked. So
yeah. So I know Sam was like, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me? And I get in the game wondering why, but you have to, why would I tell you? And I also figured like people were not happy that Gabby wasn't talking, but Gabby was talking to me. And I knew eventually people would go through me to get to talk to Gabby, which would give me more avenues, if Gabby didn't change, her communication style. So it really just was a big risk that I was happy to get rid of the idol ultimately. And I felt good enough that Benji would, support me, Josh and Gabby as well. So it was worth it.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. That analysis you make there makes perfect sense. It is a logical conclusion to make. And you say something really important here. Playing with an idol is really hard. And having it is kind of this target on you. Especially, like you said, Sam knows about it. So there's no guarantee Sam isn't mentioning it to people. And even if it's just like, oh, I have this idol, people are going to start assuming where it came from. And we'll get into like the lie about the idol afterwards. But first, before we get there, Hathaway, I want to talk about you with your experience in that first little bit on the Vekoma tribe there. Because we see when the divas kind of come together, they mention, you know what? Everyone has like good vibes about you, but at the same time, they're feeling a little sus because it seems like you're making these like one-on-one conversations. You're kind of like going through the rounds with everyone to make these initial connections. So what was your experience in those early days of the game?
Dude, this is so dumb. Okay, like, first of all, what am I supposed to say? Am I supposed to get in these calls and be like, I hate your vibes, dude, whack? I'm not like, we were immune and it's round one. So I'm just going around, I'm meeting people, and guess what? I'm a good vibe, bro. So we're gonna vibe. Like, what do you want? Like, if we're hanging out and we're just shooting the shit, we're gonna have fun. Like, and I wasn't making like final 3 deals with everyone or like anything insane like that. I talked almost no game. It would just be like, yeah, we feel good. I like you. Hell yeah. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to say there. Like, and I don't know. I honestly think that you see Katz talk to, and he's never articulated that this was part of his strategy, but this is something I felt watching back. Katz like says it to Sam, where he goes like, yeah, I feel like Ben's like saying, and then like, then Sam immediately echoes that thought back, and then it spreads from there. And so like, I really think it more is about how Katz had this like kind of hive mind army that like and he knew I was going to be an ally to him, especially in the early game. So it kind of gave him like, he could isolate me on the outside as like a close ally by making people feel sketch about me, even though I didn't like directly do anything to like warrant that. And I don't know, if you watch a lot of the divas conversations minus Erin, it's a lot of Kat saying something, and then all of a sudden Jordyn and Sam think the same thing. So I really think it just kind of spread that way, and then I was just kept on the outs from that perception. But I would love to see if Katz was intentional about that, because that's what I think happened. Like, yeah, because I've never had that experience in any of the live games I've played, which I know these are different. But that's another thing. And Bryant, I'm glad we're both here because neither of us had played an org before. I don't know how much I'm supposed to talk to people. I don't know, I know people said too, like over the weekend I like went ghost, but like I talked to everyone on a call for hours, like, and we were immune. I'm like, we're good. Like, what is there to talk about? We're good. Like, I feel good about everyone. Like, I don't know the decorum or whatever, like, the cadence we're supposed to be talking. So, I don't know, that I felt like that was kind of whack.
Yeah, that was really hard to get used to immediately, not knowing what everybody else seemed to know already. So.
Well, I mentioned it in previous After the Snuffs too, right? You can come into a game having played so many of them, and the amount of conversation and dedication you have to put into a game is completely different than the last game you played before that. I've played games where I've been on calls with people for 4 hours every single night.
Yeah.
And I've played games where I've hopped on like 6 or 7 calls the entirety of the game. And it all depends on the cast of people you have there and how they're looking at playing the game. I think our games, because we ask for recording so we can produce episodes, incentivizes that like calling nature of the game. But on top of that, like you still don't know how much everyone else is making calls and how much time they're dedicating to it. So I'm just going to use the people in this call for an example, right? If Brian's talking to someone for 45 minutes, it's like, that's a long time. But Hathaway is spending 2 hours talking to that same person. How are you supposed to know that? And how is that going to dictate how everyone views you in the game? Are people going to view Bryant as not playing the game enough? Are they going to view Hathaway as playing the game too much?
Oh, and also, like, just off that point too, like the way I was gauging it was like, I felt like I'm not someone that spends a lot of time like gaming or on my computer. I felt like I was talking as much as you possibly could. Like I was like, how could anyone be talking more? Like I was like, this is insane, like an insane time commitment. I was like, how on earth? Like I was like, there's just no way that anyone's doing it more than me. But finds out they are. Like there's 4-hour calls every night, and like you're saying, and I'm like, okay, you can have that because
I was
I'm not trying to do that.
I was so shocked because like part of my job is being on Facebook, so I had an easy way to like, great, I always have it open anyway, but I still would not pay attention. But people were messaging, I'm like, but you have a real job that's not Facebook. How are you doing this?
Yeah,
it is one of those things that people find a way. People find a way in these games to communicate with people, because I think there's personally this type of fear that people have of, and you see it in some games, you see it in some previous seasons, right? Where somebody will get a message and it's like, oh, well, they didn't respond to me for like 4 hours. And it's like, yeah, but I'm working. But it doesn't matter. It's like that any excuse to vote someone out, especially in the early game. So it makes things a little difficult. But we go from this, and then Bryant, after you play the idol, how long did it take before you told Sam that you did that? And then was there any communication as to what the lie was going to be to protect Sam's idol at that point?
Yeah, so this was messy. So I messaged Sam, I think basically immediately after. So I had set a call with Benji after like a half hour after tribal, and I wanted to get to Sam immediately. And I concocted a lie that, in retrospect, I like wouldn't have done it, because I was hoping to kind of like, one, give myself more time to solve this idol that ultimately ended up being the merge idol, and two, to take some heat off my partner. Ultimately, taking the heat off the partner didn't work, and Sam rejected it immediately. I had just basically said, great. Like I had alluded to being bad at math when I played the idol, and our clue was very math based. So everybody on my tribe figured that, unless I told them. So it basically worked on my tribe, but on Vekoma, no one would have bought that at all, it seems like. So it was very hard to come to a conclusion. And then Sam was like, great, here's what Sam basically told me what he was going to tell his tribe. So I was like, okay, if it comes up with me, I will tell them that as well. Some people it came up with, some it didn't. I think it was right before the merge, before I told everybody that it was a partner advantage. I had even made pages and pages of math like problems based on the number of items in our packages, and I got to the number whatever season San Juan del Sur is, and I somehow the math worked, so I just told like Ryan and Tawni that, and it like worked. I was like, oh, and they have partners in that season, look at how good that works. And I did too much there. Too much. I should have only been thinking about myself there, and maybe have thought it more through a little more.
Well, after this, Vekoma goes to that first tribal council. Hathaway, when you are making connections on your tribe, we know that you and Katz were very, very tight in these early days. Who else were you forming connections with during this Joe boot cycle?
Yeah, I mean, this is where like I genuinely I felt like I had good connections with all the divas. Like,
Mhm.
and obviously at that point they were keeping that super secret, but like I had great calls with Sam, especially I think out of the other divas, like I vibed really well with Sam. And then I also really liked Cade once Cade like became a little more active. But my plan was all like I had a final three with Cade and Katz.
Mhm.
Um, and this is like from round one. I never would have done that later in the game, obviously. But like that, I liked Cade and Katz. And really like in the early game, it to me it's like just about continuing to like build the good vibes and like and make yourself comfortably within the numbers, and then you can find out over time like who are your real allies. So like I wasn't as concerned at being like, am I like is Jordyn with me or more than Sam or is this, and you know it was just like okay cool, I know that like you know, it's not me. And I know it's not me for like probably a little while. So it's like I have time to kind of hopefully create those relationships, you know, stronger. Um and also like I also just think that like it's really important to just provide value to your allies. And so like Katz has in this round he was going to catch a vote, one stray vote from Joe. And
Mhm.
I literally set up a call with Joe to switch it to Erin just to get the vote off of Katz so I could show and my ally like this I'm providing you value in the game, you know. And I do think it's one of the reasons I never am really a target pre-merge is because I was providing value to like the biggest power player pre-merge probably with Katz. So like you know, he's never gonna he knows I'm providing him value, so he would never like try to make me the target, you know. Um so yeah.
I mean, there was something else helping you in the pre-merge not be a target, and that was you spent a lot of it on Winner's Beach
That's
after this
true.
swap.
I think that screwed me so
Lucky.
hard.
Well,
I
let's
hate
talk
Winter
about that.
Speech.
First off, I mean, we as production thank you because you gave us like almost all of the content from Winner's Beach because you kept submitting things there for us. But talk to me about your experience during those rounds because being on Winner's Beach puts you in the minority the entire time. You don't get these
Yeah.
opportunities to make connections with all these other people. And I mean, there's differing philosophies on the best way to approach Survivor, but there are many people out there who say going to tribal council is important in Survivor because it builds trust with people. So being in that winner side of things and not going, but also being the minority, how was that during the game? And like looking back on it, how do you think it impacted your game?
I mean during the game it was okay because it like let us talk less. So like I
Mhm.
could get off my computer a little bit, which was nice. Um but yeah, like I think it was horrible for my game. Like I go to two pre-merge tribals and they were both unanimous votes. So like,
Mhm.
you know, it doesn't really show you where like lines stand or like anything like that or like, you know, um like I went to two easy votes pre-merge. So like, you know, and then I was over there with Tawni basically the whole time. And so like it basically became like I have to make this, you know, a super valuable connection. And it also like it genuinely was at the time. Like Tawni and I were
Mhm.
really connecting. So like it wasn't like a forced thing. It was like, okay, cool. Like I'm really vibing with my partner and like it makes sense for our game to stick together because we have all this time over here and like, you know, if you can be a pair, like there might be a ton of fractures with the people that have to keep going to tribals and stuff. So you know, I think it was horrible for my game though. Also because of things like not being aware of the divas and stuff. Like Bryant's able to suss out that there's like this tight trio over there because he's over there. Like, you know, like I only went to two votes that were unanimous. Like, how the hell was I supposed to know that there's like this tight group? And it takes me one round post merge to figure it out. So I think it's just like, you know, it's like a weird dynamic of like just not being in the room. And it's like,
Yeah.
you know, so it's like, yeah, of course I trusted Katz. I wasn't there, you know? And then as soon as everyone gets back together, you're like, oh, no, wait a minute. You're full of shit, you know? So I don't know. I think it was horrible for my game.
Well, conversely, Bryant, you were in the opposite camp. You were on Losers Beach a lot.
Yep. Loved it.
So that first, so again, you were also in an interesting spot as a Gerslauer here because the way that these Losers Beaches broke out, you ended up being in the minority despite having even numbers because someone on your original tribe didn't have a vote in those first two losers beaches. So let's talk about the Kolby vote to start, because here's where we kind of see this like alliance between yourself, Josh, Benji, what was it, Erin, Katz, and Sam kind of forms in that vote. And then obviously they completely turn on you at the next vote. So talk to me about that connection in that first round and how you were feeling about it going into what turns out to be Josh's ouster.
Yeah, no, I mean, I felt great for the Kolby vote. I mean, I had no power that round. There was nothing. It would have been insane, I think, for Vekoma to give up that numbers advantage. And there was, you know, Kolby wasn't really around much. He's a jet setter, so you know, that was just an easy vote for us to get on board with, and we really had no choice. But I felt really good with that grouping that we had going. I really liked everyone. Katz and I bonded quite a bit. Sam and I were obviously partners, and you know, we were working okay at that point. And then Benji and Josh, I was already super connected with. I was ready to ride with that 6 to the end. Didn't last long, obviously, and you know, when Josh went out, you could feel there was some weirdness going on. I remember Katz messaged me and was just mentioned something about Josh, and I was like, oh, I'll, you know, tell Josh, no, we're gonna vote. I think it was Tommy was the no Ryan was the vote. And that once Josh went, completely blindsided. I wouldn't have, you know, if we had planned to vote for a Vekoma that round, I probably would have been less blindsided. But considering we were planning to get Ryan out, who wasn't in that alliance of 6 from the round before, this is where I learned I'm a petty bitch. And I tried to take it well. I really did try to take it well for until merge, but yeah. So I really liked working with Josh. I thought that was a big loss. Because I know Gabby and her after the Snuff was saying that she hasn't really watched Survivor. I remember I mentioned fire making, and she didn't know what that was. So I was like, okay, great. So we're gonna work together in a different way than me and Josh are gonna work together. So that was a big hit to lose Josh, and it immediately lost my trust with them. So.
Well, and immediately after that, you do kind of reveal Sam's idol to everyone too, right?
Yeah, that felt great. That felt really good. Yeah, I had given it some thought, and it was. I'm glad I did that because I think it planted seeds in the right way, but it could have blown back on me if it got to the wrong person. But Sam was very clearly not gonna, you know, we weren't going to work together at that point. And I think he probably knew that too. I think he would use me as much as he could, but then I would be cut at some point. And I was like, well, you should have cut me because I had more dirt on you than Josh did. So, and I clearly had a good relationship with Gabby. So, yeah, I really wish I had followed up with Hath here, because I talked to Gabby about it, and I talked to Tawni about it, and then Tawni went to Hath and everyone. But if I had been a little less scared to lose my spot, I probably would have just gone straight to Hath there, which may have, I don't know.
Also, I think we've talked post game about this, but I would have flipped if you talked to me. Like in the conversation I had with Tawni, she wasn't pitching me any of like the reasons. She was like, "Come on, just do it." And I was like, "Why?" Like, you know, I was like there's a path here, and I can explain my logic, but then you're just telling me to kind of like blow up all my spot just cause, you know. Yeah. So yeah, I think that I definitely would have done it had we talked.
Yeah.
So
Well, that kind of takes us to the merge here, and this is the part where the game blows wide open. A lot of things are revealed in this merge, and Hathaway, you're very laser focused on who you want out of this merge. So let's talk about that. What was it that told you, yes, Benji has to be the vote here, and why were you so adamant about it when it seemed like the rest of the Vaconomas were kind of starting to placate the idea that Erin didn't want Benji gone?
Right. So this is I'm a big believer in if you're immune, you just gotta push. Like it doesn't like you're gonna catch heat. It doesn't matter. Like you have to pull teeth when you're immune. Like that's like the goal. And I knew I spent time on Winter's Beach with Benji. I knew him and Erin were like that. And also like Erin is a massive threat. Like we all know it. And I also just fully believe that Erin, like if you were truly sticking with Vekoma, Erin has Benji on the outside, and like you're an idiot to think she's not scheming there, you know? So like if you're truly about Vekoma strong, this is the best move for Vekoma. And so it was a really easy thing for me to like preach to Vekoma because it's like, hey, I'm Vekoma strong. And if you're Vekoma strong, this is the obvious play. So, and I knew it would be good for my game, you know, like I had heard whispers about, you know, some things. So it was just like, okay, I've heard that they're kind of going for me. So I just like, and it was just easy to say it's like a Vekoma strong thing, right?
Yeah.
So I forget where I was going after that, but
what type of pushback did you get from those conversations though? Like, were you seeing a lot of pushback from the Vacomas on the idea of Benji at first?
yeah, I mean, people were like agreeing, but like, you know, they weren't like, I knew people didn't want to do it. That's why I wanted to do it. Like, you know, it was like, I know Benji's super charismatic and like, you know, he's a super likable guy and he's connected to arguably the most powerful player in the game. It's like, this is a move that should be done. And obviously other people like Erin and Benji. So like, it's something that they're not going to want to do. And also like, I know I didn't have the full agency to say it. People love to remind me about that. But the point is that like saying a name has a lot of power. Like you don't need to like literally be the one that always like can pull the trigger. Like no one else was banging a drum as loud as that. It's kind of like what Gabler did at the merge, low key. Like you say the name in front of everyone and like then it happens because it's been said so much. And like Tawni and I obviously had a falling out this round because she didn't want to do Benji, and there's a whole thing. I don't care. And anyway, after that, it made it seem the vibe was like after that I felt like Tawni was not just gonna not work with me, she was gonna be like an active adversary to me in the game.
Right.
And so I was like, all right, well, screw it. Like this is burning down. I'll just make her the vote. And I also then could make it seem like, look how Vekoma strong I am. You guys are all protecting your partners. And I'm fine to get rid of mine. I don't care. Like I am Vekoma strong. Get rid of them. I don't care. So it helped me really kind of like preach those points. And then when it obviously switched back, I was good with it. So
Yeah, no, and it totally makes sense there. I think Jordyn really outlined why Benji made sense there. Bryant, from your side of things at this vote, how much information were you getting from just everyone in the game? Because the Gerstlauers were all over the map on this vote.
None. I was livid. I was absolutely pissed that whole round because I was absolutely iced out. No one was talking to me. No one was giving me anything. I think a couple of people told me, yeah, the Vacoma's going to choose. And I was like, this is insane. Because from the beginning, as soon as we would have swapped and we did swap, I'm very pro cross tribal alliances because one, I just anticipate I'll be on the bottom in my initial tribe, so that is a good mindset to go in with. But also, you know, it's more fun to watch. It's far less fun to watch one tribe put gong another tribe. Yeah, I was completely iced out. Even Benji, after we were on a call trying to figure out the idol clue, but Benji knew someone solved it at some point, so we stopped, and then I hadn't heard from him because he was in self-preservation mode too, which didn't work out. Rest in peace. Yeah, it was the only person who gave me any name was Cade, and Cade gave me Gabby.
Right.
Which I wasn't going to write Gabby's name down if they have all the votes. I have no reason to. I already played my idol on her So I said I randomly selected Cade. I really just chose Cade because I thought writing down anyone else's name, they would be super bitter about it. So I was just like, Cade, I'm sure he'll take it well. So
Yeah, well, I mean, here and Benji goes, there are all these votes here, and then we get into this next round. This next round is really interesting. And Hathaway, I have a question for you because it's been just gnawing at me since it happened. There's a call that you have with Erin in this round, and you tell Erin it was absolutely an attack on you, the vote to get Benji out. Were you intention? You said it was there's conversation about it, and Erin saying how the divas are like, no, it wasn't an attack on you. We were just scared of the extra vote. And you respond, no, this was absolutely an attack on you. Did you intentionally say that in order to drive a wedge between Erin and the rest of the Vacomas?
Yeah. Also, like, it's one of those things where it's like, it doesn't hurt me to tell you the truth. Like, so like, if everyone else is bullshitting you, and Erin's a smart player, she knows they're bullshitting her, right? So it's like, but it's just providing value. Like, that's what it is. Like, if I cannot bullshit you when everyone else is, like, it just, even if we're on opposite sides, you don't know where the games are going to go, like, and I'm not going to insult her intelligence. Like, I'm like, yeah, fucking people are lying to you. It's bullshit. Like, and I pretty much always, like, I genuinely play a pretty honest game most of the time. Obviously you end up
most of the time.
I think in like what?
I said most of the time, yeah.
Most of the time. I mean, genuinely, I don't think that you have to lie all the time in Survivor. I think there's like 2 or 3 pivotal rounds where it's like you have to lie. And I think people kind of get a little carried away about that, and then you end up with no one trusting you and you burn, but genuinely I try to like play it as honest as I can until I have to lie, and then and then people tend to believe you more in that moment because they're like, oh yeah, Ben did tell me it was an attack on me when he was against me. So like now if he's going to tell me he wants to work with me, then hopefully you believe that as well, because I'm not going to bullshit you until I absolutely have to.
No, and I think it's really good, especially because, sorry, Brian, we'll just get to you in a second. I think it's really good because as we see in the next round, you're already planning on flipping on the Vacomas at this point.
Yeah, so I just didn't have like I just needed it to wait around, like, because I'd already been told now about like the divas and all these things, but like just from my game perspective, I needed to wait one round,
Brian, what were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say that's also, it's just the truth usually disarms people too. Like they aren't used to hearing it. So Erin's obviously coming in hot. And I think that's, a good way to, even if it's not true, even if it wasn't an attack on Erin, it would, change her mindset to be like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. So, Brian, here is one of those pivotal rounds here in this game where Erin's been scorned by the Vacomas. Erin's, ready to do whatever it takes here. And it seems like the Gerstlauers are finally coming together. What was the driving force to finally unite everyone? Because even Ryan is coming back over to the Gerstlauers at this point. So what type of conversations were happening to actually get everyone on the same page? Was it a result of seeing how organized the other side was and how disorganized your side was? Or was it just a matter of this is the point of the game where we have to do something like this?
Yeah, I mean, I think there were a couple things because it's so interesting that you say disorganized because it was, but I wasn't viewing it as disorganized. I was viewing it as we were just left out, and we, what point was there in organizing at that time? I mean, there's always a point, but no, but there was a lot of things that happened that round with what ultimately resulted in the vote. Where first Katz reached out, Katz reached out to me saying, Erin's going to tell you A, B, and C. Jordyn and Sam also reached out to me almost immediately at the same time, going to say A, B, and C, which they did that a lot. Whether it was like happenstance or not.
It wasn't.
Yeah, no, like it was really clear.
It's
when
the
at
hive mind, dude.
2 p.m. I would get a message from 2 or 3 people saying the same thing. But then Erin came to me and said A, B, and C. Katz is an idol. The divas, blah blah blah. And at that point, I was still in self-preservation mode from the last 5 rounds or whatever. And I was very ready to be like, you know what, Sam, Jordyn, Katz, I'm going to give you one more shot. But like, what power do I have to give anyone one more shot at that point? So Erin is also just one came off very genuine, and I think she needed me at that point, and we bonded pretty well. But I was still kind of like, okay, if Jordyn, Katz, and Sam give me a backup name, then I'll vote with them, because we all knew Erin was going to play the fast pass. So if Erin won immunity, who was the backup vote? So I waited to hear who the backup vote was. I didn't get anything. So I was like, well, could be me. Sounds like it's me. So all those things combined, and just kind of wanting to get that idol and Sam, I love you, but I wanted to get Sam out of the game, ultimately led to the vote from me, at least.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a ton of sense. But there's one thing that wasn't anticipated in this round. It was Tawni just not voting with you. So either of you chime in on this one. What was the relationship with, like, I know Hathaway, you guys had just had the infamous voicemail at this, or the voice memo at this point, and that relationship had deteriorated. But what was it like talking to Tawni this round? Because it seems like from the conversations I've had with everyone, Tawni was really hard to get a hold of this round in general. But why do you think it is that Tawni decided to stick with or vote with the Vekomas against Erin rather than coming together with the Gerstlauers to vote Sam?
I don't know. I mean, I did talk to her this round, and like we like reconciled. We talked about using, now that I'd like, there was a point where I intentionally exaggerated the voicemail in game to make Tawni the target. And then once that was over, and if she was, then Benji was out, I was like, well, this is great. Everyone thinks we hate each other. Let's just keep that rumor going, and then we can work together. And we were down, and then, but obviously that didn't play into her decision at all. I literally think she was just like, screw it. I don't know. It's a lot like my experience working with her. It's very hard to understand.
Yeah. I remember Tawni, I don't think we called that round, but she had messaged me a couple hours before tribal, and it's like, I don't know what to do here. And I thought we settled, like, it's this, we are on board, but obviously that first tribal lost some trust with her. So
do you have any enlightenment into that, Bryant? Why did Tawni believe Ryan was the person who put the vote on her at that first tribal council?
Because, well, one, no, I don't think anyone suspected Kolby, because Kolby wasn't super active. Right. But Ryan was just very, I'm trying to think of the right word. I don't think aggressive is the right word, but very aggressive in how he approached you initially with the game, where it was like, boom, 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 boom. Here's all these things. Here's all the ideas immediately. Our first messages were like lining out this whole like onion alliance thing. And so Ryan was just very chaotic in our eyes. And I think we all just assumed, like, oh, it's Ryan. We knew it wasn't me, Josh, or Gabby. We knew it wasn't Jared. We knew it wasn't Tawni. So that left Benji, who was in an alliance with Tawni, and Kolby, who didn't seem like a player at the time. So that leaves Ryan.
Yep, I mean, that makes sense. I can see where the logic comes from. It's just unfortunate that was never really clarified to a point where it could be believable that it wasn't Ryan, because it did lead to all these tensions. But it gave us some great TV, because instead we get rocks at Final 10, and lo and behold, the person who decides to force rocks is the person who is out of the game because of it. And this really opens up everything that happens at Final 9, because this is the point where all of a sudden, Hathaway, now's your opportunity. You can move. But little beknownst to you, Cade's already working with this other side. and they already have the numbers to take control of the game. So what was the defining factor that led you to want to make this move here? And ultimately, why did you decide Katz was the one you wanted to go after at this point?
I mean, yeah, I wanted to do this the round before. I believed Erin when she told me everything going on. I just knew, like, for my game, I needed to wait to, like, act on it. And I don't want to flip it 10. I want to flip it 9, where, like, you have an odd number, you know? Like, and so I was totally cool with just, you know, biding my time. But, I mean, yeah, I wanted to get rid of Katz because, like, you know, and this is no personal shade, in game, completely full of shit. So, like, you know, I also knew that, like, you know, the perception would be that I was in his pocket and things like that. Because genuinely, and like everyone on the jury can roll their eyes when I say this, but I did want to play a loyal game, and the two people I wanted to play with were Tawni and Katz, and both of them made it impossible for me to play with them. And so, like, I was like, okay, well, like, you know, like, I'm not gonna just not like with Katz. It was like, all right, I'm not gonna just, like, you know, you've been feeding me crap all game, you know, like, I'm not just like, so when I flipped, you know, I knew there was a chance that he would play his idol. I thought it was almost likely. Like, I thought it would, but Erin being the boot out was totally fine with me. Like, if he played his idol, because I was like, cool, yeah, cool. And then I get rid of the big start over here. That idol gets flush, and now I'm over here with 4, and it's 4v4 heading into the next thing. So, like, worst case scenario was still in my head a pretty good scenario for me, you know. So am I lagging?
No, you're good.
Oh, okay. I just so yeah, but obviously I had no idea about Cade, and I told them I was doing the double agent thing because I knew I would need a cover. Like, in this game, like, everything you did got leaked immediately. Like, I don't know if, like, that experience was for everyone, but, like, I knew if I even had a conversation with Gertschlauer that, like, it was gonna leak. So I was like, I have to have a cover story and, like, be transparent about it so I can tell them to play where to play the idol was kind of the guys, right? So, you know, and I told them they were playing it for Katz. I'm pretty sure too. I don't even remember. Like, but yeah, like, I was like, yep, you know, but we had the number. I forget. I don't know. It was fucking months ago. But, like,
It was.
you know, so, like, I needed a cover story, and I was trying to, like, I had lost Tawni, who was one of my number 1 allies, and then I'd learned that my other ally was, you know, the village whore cheating on me with everybody. And so I was like, okay, I gotta find some new allies. And I was hoping to, like, reach out with people like Bryant. I mean, especially, like, Bryant and Gabby, I did want to work with. Like, they're solid too, and they've been loyal all game, and everyone could see it. So it was like that, you know, I didn't want to work with Erin all the way to the end. So I was hoping to establish that trust that round. And then yeah, it just sucks. Like, it just didn't go that way, but it's all right.
Well, and this round is where you have, I think, one of, like, the more memorable confessionals of the season too, where you talk about the 2 nukes that the Vacomas have versus the denuclearized Erin at this point, who's isolated, who is off there, is as you've already said, like, a good game player, is very capable in the game, and is a threat, but is that threat as much as 2 idols?
Yeah. But it's also, like, I don't know. This is just, like, it's funny because I think that people really try to paint me like a not loyal player, especially, like, the divas on Vacoma, excluding Erin. And it's like, how the hell am I supposed to be loyal to y'all when y'all constantly kept me on the outs, like, undermined my, like, agency, like constantly. Like, so it's like, you know, because I think Sam's, like, final tribal question to me is about this. I'm like, bro, you never included, like, I was never in your plan. Like, how the hell do you expect me to be loyal to that? The 2 people I was loyal to, it fell apart. Like, and then from there you had to just pick up the pieces, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Bryant, in this moment where now you have Hathaway also coming to your side, ready to flip on everything, what's going through your mind, and how are you all trying to decide who to actually vote for in this instance, knowing that both Katz and Sam have idols?
Yeah, we knew we were pretty set on Sam from the beginning. One, because also Cade unfortunately beat Half to the punch with saying that Cade came to us saying that Hath was going to come to us as a double A agent. So, and Cade had already proven like the loyalty, whereas Hath hadn't at that point, at least to the alliance as a whole. So it was, you know, we also felt very strongly that Cass was going to use the idol. He had already said like he wanted to get rid of it. And Cass just kind of had more of a frenetic energy that feels like he would just play an idol just to be safe one more round, whereas Sam had already proven that he has balls of steel and won't play it the round before. So and that felt like the best chance to get both idols out of the game ultimately.
I mean, that makes total sense to me. And I guess you also knew that the vote was on Erin otherwise, right? So like, was there a
so like there was no risk to me. It was so nice that people were so hyper focused on individuals in this game. It made it much easier to hide, and it also, like Kath said, things leaked so often, but also people wouldn't. It didn't seem like anyone would try to fact check things, like, and that's I think what caused a lot of votes to go back and forth before it ultimately landed on a person, because someone would hear something, be like, oh, that's it, okay, great, let's go there, rather than try to suss things out.
So what you're saying is people weren't confirming with the people who the information was about as to whether that happened, or just like confirming with each other if they had also heard the same thing?
Both. From my perspective in the game, it didn't seem like people were even like being like trying to like be sneaky with the person who the thing was about, or talking to their allies. Like no one talked to me about Benji's extra vote pre-merge, which it had been clear Benji and I were working together, and I was in a bad spot that round. So it just seemed like people weren't. They ran with what they had. I think because if you do try to fact check, it could blow back on you.
Yeah, I mean, that makes total sense to me. So after this, after Sam goes, Hathaway, you've been left out of the vote on every angle possible. How are you feeling coming into this next round? Like, you've just shown the Vacomas that you're flipping on them, and the Gerslauers have just shown they don't trust you enough to actually include you on the vote. So how are you feeling as kind of this island in the game now?
Yeah, I mean, there was a confessional I did that didn't make it, which I understand. But like this was the low point of the game for me, like by far. You know, like, you know, I think too, just like, and I'm not gonna get into the weeds of things, but like the falling out with Tawni, like I was emotionally not enjoying the game. Like I was not having fun at this point at all. And then finding out that Katz, like, you know, was like, you know, playing me the whole game, and I was just like, okay, this sucks, you know. And so I tried to make a move, you know, and then to be fully left out by the other team, it just sucked. Like it was like, I was not having fun at this moment at all. So yeah, and like I do a confessional that doesn't make it, where I basically am like, yeah, I think like I'm too much of a competitor to quit or like not play, and like I just have too much respect for like the game. But I talked about how I wasn't proud at all of the game I played, and like I was just really upset with myself. And I basically knew that like the only way forward was like to make myself a number to like people, and then and I figured that the best way to do that was with Bryant and Gabby, because that's the place you can go and get the most agency immediately. There are two, and Gabby like was not the most active player. Like it was pretty she was active, but she was only really active through Bryant. Like Bryant was kind of like summoning her, you know, like through like weird rituals or something. I don't know. And so like I was like, okay, I have to get in with them because clearly they're loyal. Like, and I was like, I need to find like a group where I can create that agency. And I called Bryant, had like a super long conversation with him. And then I called Gabby, and like, you know, most people don't get on calls with Gabby. So, you know, that's when you know you're making inroads. And like, you know, I had like a super long call with Gabby, and then I had a call with both of them. And I was really excited about the potential of working with both of them at that point. Like I was feeling a lot better. Because my whole idea was like the three of us could kind of play the middle, like Bryant had been doing for a lot of the game as well, but and kind of just pick off, you know, Erin over here, and then we pick off Katz over here, and then we pick, you know, and even then I probably would have tried to snipe Bryant at 4. But I was like, I could probably take this all the way, or relatively all the way. And then after Bryant reveals the information, which like I'll let him talk about as well, but after he like kind of unites Vekoma with Katz and Jordyn, who I did not want to work with, like I didn't want to be associated with the Divas at all. But you know, he had this information about Cade that unites everyone. And then I basically just knew, okay, like this is Bryant's move now, like on paper, right? And no move is like one person's, right? Everyone like plays a million roles into it, right? Like if I don't have those conversations with Bryant and Gabby, we probably don't end up in that exact same situation. But without the information of Cade, we probably don't unite Jordyn and Katz and, you know, all this stuff, right? So I knew the perception would be that way. And so then at that point, I knew I also couldn't go to the end with Bryant at that moment. So I was like, fuck. Which it would have probably been a bad idea for that anyway. But I do think though, like still that this is like a round of gameplay that I'm really proud of myself in, because like emotionally I was genuinely like rocked. I was not having fun. I like wanted to quit. Like, you know, like I never said that on a thing or anything, but like I was like I was not having any fun. And so I was able to like pick myself up emotionally and like put all the pieces together and gain the complete control in the game from this moment on through this alliance with Bryant. And so I do still think like it is the round where I think I became a deserving winner. Like, you know, all juries are different and we'll get there, but like, I think that like this is the round that like made me a legit player, you know, to win, that could win the game.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair, because I think you did end up in a position here where I think there was a possibility that it was very easy for the vote to fall on you here, but because of the effort you put in with Brian and Gabby, it
does. Yeah, the other team tries to. Yeah, the other side does try to get me. Yeah.
So then, Bryant, I mean, let's talk about this information you have. So you reveal to Kaz and Jordyn, hey, so Cade actually flipped the round before. You just didn't know that because Tawni flipped to your guys' side and cost rocks and then got rocked out of the game. This, and as we see from confessionals after this point in the season, this is kind of like that moment in the game. This is the like, oh, this is a moment, like, this is a move big enough to win the game, just this here. So walk me through the decision to reveal that information, the decision to unite these players who have been on the bottom, which is right where you were earlier in the game, and like now you kind of like had this balance of power switch where you get to be the person picking up the people on the bottom, and how much effort it took to actually convince them to work with you in this point.
Yeah, well, I'll foreshadow that. It took no effort at all to convince them to work with me. I literally just said 3 sentences and it was done. But yeah, this was another time where I went into this round fully ready to work with Erin, Cade, Ryan, Gabby, etc. But you know, once you sit down and think about it more, you know, I saw Erin. Erin was obviously a threat. I feel like Erin needed to get that tattooed on her ass, but like, and then Erin also had, it felt like Erin had Ryan and Cade like very strongly. So that put Gabby and me at the bottom there, which from the first round, I don't like being on the bottom of an alliance. I'm not one to just like sit around and wait. And I knew the more time Erin had in the game, the more time she would be able to, you know, fuck shit up if she wanted to, and then she got nuclearized, if you will, throughout the game. But the big thing that really convinced me was Cade sent our group a message, the five of us, and was like, "Hey guys, I would really appreciate it if you don't tell anybody about this, because I'm trying to, you know, stay safe with them." And at first I was like, oh yeah, sure, you saved us. And then 5 minutes later I was like, what the fuck? Why would I do that? That's insane. I'm not playing your game. And Cade had proven to be a good gameplay player at that point. And I knew, like, going, I figured I could very easily get Jordyn and Katz on board. I wasn't sure about the relationship between Katz and Hath at the time because of the vote, but the vote for Katz is kind of what led me to trusting you, Hath, here, because I think we talked about this after the Benji vote, but I felt very betrayed when you didn't tell me anything about the Benji vote after we had like talked about trusting each other. And I know, like, it's a matter of whether it's, if omission is still, betrayal or whatever.
Right.
But the Cats, I was like, I felt really bad that you voted for Cats because I was fully convinced that you were a AA agent there, which I guess you were a triple A. I don't know how that all works, but and I was like, okay, if I make this 5, I felt like Hath would want to work with me and Gabby more. So then we have that 3 within the 5, which puts me on top. So I didn't really see a risk in making the move at that time. And it felt so good. It felt so good to see surprise on Jordyn and Cass's face at that time. Because it felt so good getting Sam. I felt like I was avenging Josh and Benji to an extent throughout these next few rounds. It felt so good. But yeah, that's really what led to it, was just not wanting to play someone else's game, and feeling like this is finally I get to be towards the top. So
hypothetical question for you here, and I mean, maybe it's impossible to answer this at this point. If Cade never mentions, hey, don't tell them about this, would you have thought to have mentioned that in that instance? Or did Cade kind of provoke this response out of you?
that is hard to say because it had been something that I was kind of keeping in my back pocket, but I probably would have waited another round because I really wanted the divas to like get the fuck out of the game. At that time, I was I'm still so annoyed with them.
I still would have done everything I did with you and Gabby that round.
Yeah.
So like in that world, we probably do work together that round and then take out a diva because I wanted them gone too.
Yeah. So they were for the first time in the game. Well, the first time in the game that they knew were on the bottom. So, yeah, I don't know. I also, you may be asking this, but I know Erin brought it up in her after the snuff. I would not, if Erin didn't win immunity here, I would not have targeted her.
Oh, really?
No, because I liked that she was like Katz and her were just on each other the whole time, and I felt like there would be an opportunity to get Erin out the next round, basically.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me. Sometimes you have to keep these big targets. You have to take that risk, and Erin winning immunity here, I mean, yeah, it may have seemed to have changed things a little bit, but you're telling me it wouldn't have. There was no way Erin was going here. So in that case, if Erin doesn't win immunity, it's still just Cade going at this point then?
If Erin doesn't win immunity and Cade still messages that thing, I would still push for Cade. And I think that Jordyn, Katz, and Hath, I think you all still would have gone with Cade, even if Erin was in the game. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to work with you and Gabby at that point.
Yeah.
So I was, I mean, I wanted a diva out for sure, but I would have been down for Cade as well.
Yeah. So I think Jordyn and Katz would have. They're both like super smart gameplay players. I don't think they would have pushed back, and I don't think they had enough capital with Erin, Ryan, and Cade to flip and anything.
Yeah.
So Cade goes here, and we get into this round where Erin becomes, from what we see in the episode, I mean, it's one of the shorter episodes of the season. We see Erin's kind of the obvious boot. Hathaway, is there any point during this round where it wasn't Erin who was going home?
I don't remember. I mean, I don't remember. I mean, I think at that point we'd aligned ourselves with Katz and Jordyn, so like the only other people really worth taking out at that point would have been them, and we needed their votes at that time. So and the plan was to flip on them next, so like which Bryant and Gabby and I had all had extensive conversations about, and we were like kind of well aware of the game plan. So it was kind of like just doing it was like taking the trash out. It was like doing a chore. It was like, all right, we have to do this thing, and then we can like get to the real tea that we all want to get into, you know. So at least that's how I remember it. It seemed like a straightforward round in the moment. Yeah.
Brian, do you have any other experience that round at all?
Yeah, no, it felt like if at that point, if Erin made it to the end, her story alone would have won her the game. In my I would.
Oh yeah, Erin beats everyone. Yeah,
yeah, and I adore her. Like, she was so fun to talk to in the game, and like, even though I knew at that point that she was like really into the org community, and as I was told many times in the game by Ryan, Erin was on Survivor Michigan. And even though like she was clearly very good at the game of Survivor, I really liked her. Maybe if she had been able to present a really good plan to not vote her out, maybe. But at this point in the game, I was also very stuck on this idea of going, no matter what, going 2 rounds with a group before I flipped. Because the first round you do the big move, the second round you solidify, get their trust, then they aren't expecting you to flip that soon. Was kind of how I was going into the merge from there. So
that makes a lot of sense. So Hathaway, during this round where Erin's going, what is your trio of the two of you and Gabby doing to kind of ensure, like looking forward, that Ryan is voting with you and doesn't go to Katz and Jordyn in the next round of Force Rocks?
I don't remember. I don't know, man. This game was so long ago. I don't know. I mean, Brian, I had a pretty good relationship with him. I think even this might be the round where I talked to him about how it had to be like me, him, Gabby as the final 3. I think that might have been this round.
I believe so. That was the Jordyn round. Yeah.
I think just like to expressing that actual intent and being like, I do think that that's my best final 3. I think it's my only potential winning final 3. And I do think if I get that final 3, I have a really good chance of winning. Like, so I think it was also in Ryan's best interest. I don't think, Ryan's a smart game player. So like, he knows that he can't beat Bryant. He knows he can't beat Katz or Jordyn. So it's like, Katz actually at this time too, like was seen as like a messier player than like, I guess like, the jury ends up thinking, but the perception was like Katz has burned all the bridges and like he had all this power and he lost it, and there's all these players on the other side he literally can't work with due to his poor like management of people in the game, like including myself. Like I didn't want to work with Katz, like but that was the perception of everyone. Like it was like Katz can't go to Erin because he's ruined that relationship. So like I think people were like a little like down on Katz game at this moment, but also like you'd still be dumb to want to go with Katz. So I think like for Ryan it made sense, and I think he probably agrees as well that was his best final 3. So my whole plan was to take out one of the divas here, Jordyn or Katz. I didn't really care who, and I was fine with Jordyn. I think she like wins more often than Katz. Like if you run 100 simulations of the final the jury, I think she wins more than Katz. But then it was the flip on Bryant, because you can't go to a 4 with Bryant and Gabby. Like you just can't do it. And so you had the flip at 5. And then the plan was to flip back and get rid of whatever diva was left, and obviously I think that if I had been able to pull it off, it would have been great. But also like it at that point, like if one thing goes wrong, then it blows everything up. And I won't skip ahead too much because I'm sure we're going to go through it beat by beat. But like, if I played a stronger game earlier, my winning game probably doesn't rely on like a perfect finale where like I have to do
Right.
every single thing like 100% correct. But I wasn't, trying to play. I could have gone to the end with Gabby and Bryant and gotten 0 votes to win, So it's like, at every step you got to do everything you can to try to win, So.
No, absolutely. I totally agree with you. And it's really interesting because you kind of mentioned the fact, like this perception in game that Katz had burned bridges. But we have a confessional from you at this point about like strategically burning bridges.
Yeah.
And ultimately, is that what ends up costing you the game in this point? Like, is that one of the things that prevents you from being able to get the win at Final Tribal Council? Is how you
honestly,
approach...
I don't think so.
Okay.
I honestly like the difference is I wasn't burning people. I think like emotionally, I think people felt like emotionally scorned by Katz, where like I was just flipping like in the game. But I mean honestly, I don't think this jury's ever rewarded me the win. So like, and we're skipping ahead a little bit, but like people typically vote based off of 2 ways. I've played a bunch of games. I've watched every season of Survivor and International. People vote. Juries are all different, but they typically vote for 2 things. One, it's just who they like the most. So I wasn't in these core alliances, and I say it in my final jury speech. If you just vote based on who you're closest with, I've got no shot. Like I'm aware of that, and like juries typically vote that way, which is why I said it in my speech. Is I was like, "Hey, don't vote that way," But that's how juries typically vote. And then the other way that people typically vote is in ways that inflate their own like value in the game contextually based on the winner. So like if Katz wins, all of the Divas games now are inflated. Like Sam and Jordyn on the jury now feel like their game mattered more because Katz won. Where a lot of my game was about not having this power early on and then kind of tearing down these institutions of power that wouldn't give me agency. And if you're in those institutions of power, you don't want to give it to the rebel that like, helped tear down your empire. So it's like, I fully get it. But, and we're jumping ahead a little bit. So I'll save some stuff. But yeah, I think like, I don't know if there's at this, like, I think if I get to the end with Gabby and Bryant and people, I have a pretty good shot. Because also Katz at the end of the game, like post, after our final tribal speeches, we were like in a waiting room, no cameras, no whatever. Like we've already duked everything out, and he said he thought I was winning. Like I know Katz saw my game, and and he's told me privately he would have voted for me if it was like me and Ryan. So like I think if Katz goes to the jury, my chances go up of winning this game a lot. But you also have to have people on the jury championing your game. So like I was hoping Bryant would go to the jury and he would have had a closer look at my game and would maybe champion that. And we've seen even on 46 how much having someone on the jury championing your game impacts the jury's opinion of you. And the first person on the jury was Tawni, which isn't probably great for like my setting the vibes on like how people are gonna feel about me moving forward on the jury. So I don't know. I think it would have been it was an uphill battle, but I do think at the end I am a deserving winner. It's just it is what it is.
And you know what? That is the thing that when we look at Survivor as a whole, a lot of the time, like the person who has played the best strategic game of Survivor doesn't always win the season because it's not the game that's needed to win that season. And that's what makes Survivor so interesting. That's why that's why we had the 47th season of Survivor start this week. It's because this isn't the same game that you can play formulaically to win every single time.
100%.
That's what makes it interesting. So,
and also, I would have voted for Katz. Like, I didn't want to sit next to Katz, right? Like, Katz played a great game. I do think that, like, and we're getting ahead. I'll save some stuff. Let's go back to the round we're at.
Okay. So Jordyn goes here, and then we get the 5. So Bryant, how dead in the water are you feeling at this round?
I am feeling like it would be dumb to not vote me out here. Because at that point, people had made at that point, people made it clear that they were playing my game. That's when like the story in my head really coalesced. And I think that's like, I probably should have, there's definitely more I could have done at 5, I think. But, that's when it really coalesced in my head. And if you can if you're in your head are very clearly explaining your game and are very proud of your game, that's the point where you need to realize that other people are probably aware of that too. So yeah, I felt somewhat confident. I felt like I was hoping that Hath would like really want to go one more round with us, and I was hoping Hath would make the vote to keep me safe.
Honestly, dude, I would have if you had told Gabby to tell me she would flip on you. But dude, I couldn't even broach that conversation with her. Like, I was like, I know if I say this, it blows everything up. Like, because she was so like attached at the hip that I was like, I just couldn't feel comfortable going another round. But I wanted Katz out. Like, if I felt like Gabby would have voted with me, I would have probably gone this round with y'all.
Yeah. It's it was such a hard round to figure out strategically, because I also kind of had to abandon my going to 2 rounds with an alliance before I flipped, because at that point I had been in an alliance with everyone the last two rounds. So but I kind of went into it expecting to go, and I just got very, very lucky. I think my social game with Katz helped some, because Katz clearly trusted, or at least trusted my word a little bit more than Ryan's word. So I think that helped. And there was a point where I did go to Gabby once, and I was like, Gabby, how would you feel about voting for half of this round? Because I was starting to get nervous about you. And it was just a very brief conversation, and Gabby was like, I'd rather vote Katz, and I'm not going to push Gabby because I needed Gabby at Final Four. So I know Gabby has told me after the game that she would never vote me out.
I know that was why I couldn't talk to her. Like, and I just knew I couldn't go to 4 with y'all. Like, I was like, because in my head I was debating that. I wanted Katz out more than I wanted you out by a lot. But I was just like, honestly, if I had to lose this season, I wanted you to win it at this point. But I was like, if there was any way at 4 to get you out, I would have done it. Like, I would have gone this round with you. But it just, at this point, it was so clear you and Gabby were so tight that it was just like, you just can't do it.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Which is also
go ahead.
Why this rock move is so dumb, regardless of what anyone says, is it's a coin toss on throwing the game away to Bryant. Literally just a coin toss. It's so dumb. Like, I will champion this all day, and it's smart to lie about it, sure, but the move itself, idiotic, like so dumb. And you don't win Survivor without getting lucky. So this is one of those like situations where it's like, hey, like, the best possible outcome of the worst decision ever happened. It's like,
I'm so surprised that throughout the whole game, like, people were so scared of Benji's extra vote, but both me and Gabby basically had an extra vote. We were going to be voting the same way the entire game. And people knew that. At some point, someone was like, "Oh, Brian, can you just tell Gabby this?" And I'm like, "No, Gabby's her own person. You can push, keep sending messages, keep reaching out, because Gabby will get on a call with you when she has time." That's how I got on a call with her initially. So,
yeah. And I mean, okay. Hathaway, now's our time. We can talk about this vote here. We can talk about how everything goes down. And I mean, luckily, we do have the confessional from Katz in the finale saying, hey, I didn't mean this to happen.
Yeah.
But I have to tell the jury that I did, because it's really dumb.
Yeah.
And this vote happens. Rocks. Hathaway, you and Gabby are the only 2 people on this wheel. It happens to land on Gabby, which in the end isn't the worst possible outcome of this vote. You're still getting rid of the duo there. Like, it's not getting to a point.
Well, I mean, I kind of knew at this point I'd probably lost. Like, this was like, I really felt like my only winning combination was Ryan and Gabby.
Right.
And so, I mean, I think that plays into some of the frustration of how I felt with the vote.
Mhm.
Because I was right there seemingly in my head. Like I was like, and it was a dumb move, even if it wasn't like, even from not my personal perspective, I think it's a dumb move. And Katz, who did it, admits that himself.
Mhm.
And great, it's smart to lie about it. I fully agree. But yeah, it's a coin toss on losing the game, just like, and I personally don't really love going to rock strategically unless you're immune either. Like,
Mhm.
I don't think it's good strategy to put shotguns in your mouth and hope there's not bullets in it, Like, I
Nope.
don't really respect that. So even going to rock strategically, I don't respect. So I think that this is unless you're immune in the rock situation,
Mhm.
then I respect it. So yeah, I don't know. I thought this was super dumb. And obviously I thought it was Ryan in the moment. Ryan, as Bryant had kind of mentioned earlier, like, he was lying about everything all the time, and it was nonsensical lies that, like, you don't even have to check with someone. You're like, this is stupid. Like, and so, like, Ryan had just kind of built up a reputation at this point of being super unreliable. Um, and so, like, the initial instinct, of course, was to be like, yeah, it's Ryan. And I really didn't want to talk about this at Tribal, and then Ryan brought it up because I wasn't sure who it was. And
Mhm.
I promise on the call with them, I said whoever did it is an idiot. And like, I just think it's you. But like, I am more than happy to be wrong about it, like, and I will, so, um, and then I, end up deducing it's Katz later. But like, um, yeah, I didn't want to talk about it at Tribal because I was worried it might be Katz. And then Ryan brought it up,
Mhm.
and I was like, crap. I was like, now we have to talk about it because I can't just like let him like rail me in front of the jury. So I have to respond. And then, then it just makes us look worse at Final Tribal. So, you know.
That gave me so much hope though. At that tribal, I was like, please keep going, keep going. I wanted Ryan to just look so bad at that point, because yeah, I could have tried to force a tie. I didn't want to try to force a tie. I wanted to get the votes, so
Yeah.
I just wanted to go through.
So who were you trying to get to vote with you? Was it like trying to get both Katz and Hath to vote with you against Ryan? That was who you're targeting here, Bryant, or was Hath the
Um,
option?
I didn't care who. I really could not give two shits who was that, what name I was writing down, because all three of them had said they wrote my name down the last time, and all three of them said that they wanted me out this time.
Mhm.
So the first thing I wanted to, is I thought I had a better chance of winning the game against Ryan. So I was like, okay, great. If Ryan ideally is in the final three, and I thought Katz was probably a little more pushable than Hath was on things. So I went to Katz, and I had this whole list of why we need to vote out Hath. But I started to say it, and Katz cut me off and was like, I'm not voting Hath. So I was like,
Oh.
okay. Same. I'm not either. That's crazy how that works out. So basically that's how it got to Ryan. And I think I don't think I think Hath, I think may have had one or two calls like right after the vote. But otherwise, like,
Yeah, I didn't lie to you this round. Like, I was like,
yeah.
yeah, because
Like,
I
I think
admitted that I
you had
flipped on
said
you.
like you want to write Ryan's name down, but you wouldn't. Like,
Yeah, that's why I emphasized it. But
yeah.
also I wouldn't have voted Ryan out there anyway. I was just annoyed with Ryan. But like, I was like,
Yeah.
there's no way I would have voted Ryan, even if you weren't in the game at this point. I would have voted Katz, like voted Katz out. Like, I was just in the moment frustrated with Ryan. But like, so that was more of like a bit for the camera than it was
Yeah.
like, you know.
Yeah, and I really tried to push this theory of a final two, which I think Ryan brought up to me. Ryan brought up a lot of random things to me. Like he found an idol at Final Five
Yep.
and all this stuff. But yeah, I was really trying to push that with Katz. I don't think Katz really believed. I think maybe a little bit thought it could have been a final two. But my lack of challenge wins is kind of I tried to use that for what I could. If I got 2 votes on top of mine, great. If it went to a tie, fine, whatever. But at that point, I knew my chances. I think I ultimately said my chances were 2% to 5%, and that would just have to be on people being bitter. So,
well, speaking on that, you do come incredibly close to winning this immunity here. As
again,
Hathaway,
for the record, I get to the end of a
yes.
lot of immunity challenges. People seem to think I'm bad at challenges, but I'm at the end at a lot of them. So I just can't win them.
But as Hathaway messaged or mentions in Final Tribal Council, like, it's a bad idea to get to the point where Bryant can win immunity and then just sit here in Final Tribal Council, and you come to a second tiebreaker in this immunity challenge.
Yep.
Is it at this point that you really wish you were just a little bit better at math?
Look, this was insane because I didn't know I should be writing things down throughout this game. So, like, I didn't write anything down throughout the game. There was at one point, I think Hath, you made, or someone made a get.
Oh yeah, it was me.
Doc, which I know Erin made the same doc basically for their side. But it was whoa, words just left my face. Yeah, it was insane. I looked back. I didn't even do the math right with the numbers I had, but my answer would have been farther off. I just really wish I had thrown on an extra 10, which in my head it passed by like, Bryant, you're probably low on things, throw on a little extra. But I'd already been pissed that I got the question wrong about the jury's perception about how they thought we would do on the game of Survivor. So I was like, you know what, trust your gut, just write the number down. And unfortunately Katz was also not great at math, but got a little closer. So
yeah. Just a little closer, like only 8. Like, that's not a lot in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah. And also Katz also admitted to just completely guessing on that. So it's like, I think that really also exaggerates how dumb I think that move was. It was double overtime and a complete guess. Like, it wasn't like a skill competition that you lost in, you know, like you were a guess away from winning the whole game, you know, like, yeah.
So close.
Hindsight, I wish you would have.
So close. Yeah. So far, Bryant, and this is it. Like, your game's over at this point, other than like the important part of the game that you still have to do, which is cast a vote for the winner. So how's it feel, like, getting right to the end of the game and just missing out on making the speech?
It really hurt after losing immunity. Because at that point I've been told by everyone, like, it's you. So it was clear it was a must win for me, and to be so close again. And you know, I felt very, very confident in winning against anyone at that point. I just felt like my game had a very clear trajectory. It started with a big move and it ended with being on top. And you know, there was a story of being on the bottom for so long and making this move and the flip, and I just felt like I could really articulate my story well, and my strengths and my weaknesses. So, and hearing the jury answers to that thing too also made me feel good about my game. So yeah, too close, so close. Oh well, live, laugh, love.
That's right. But here we are. Hathaway, you've made Final Tribal Council, so we can get into as much of this as you want to, as little as you want to. But I just want to start with, how was your perception in that time after giving your speech and waiting for the jury to vote? Like, how are you feeling about how Final Tribal Council went?
I mean, I knew going in the tribal it was like gonna be a fight. That's why I opened too with like, I'm gonna fight and claw and kick, because I knew that Katz was the front runner to win going into it. And honestly, didn't expect Ryan to get any votes, maybe except for like an Erin vote out of like just personal connection kind of thing. But like down, especially the stretch of the game, the perception of everyone in game was like, and I mean, Brian can corroborate this as well, but like he was like kind of impossible to work with. He was not reliable. There's a reason we all thought he threw the vote, is because like he just had no trust. Like it was the boy who cried wolf kind of thing. And he wasn't really in the room where like the decisions were being made down the stretch of the game. And so I really didn't expect Ryan to I also knew like I think Ryan played a better game than like the perception of him was at the time in the game. But I also knew I couldn't focus on trying to like fight. You know, you can't do a war on two fronts. Like I was like, Katz is the front runner. I have to try to just attack Katz all tribal. Because also I knew people were gonna try to say I'm in his pocket and things like that. And you know, so I didn't want to sit next to Katz. I was I was not excited about that. You know, and I think too, like some other things like post final tribal, people have mentioned that it was basically like it was not an open tribal. Like people had kind of already made up their minds, which is unfortunate when you're like, you've spent 30 days, like, you know, scratch and clawing, dedicating all this time to this game to have basically a lot of people just admit like they were not even listening, which is, you know, it does hurt like when you put that much into it. But I felt like pretty good about my final tribal. Like I thought there were some people I knew Jordyn wasn't voting for me. I knew Sam wasn't voting for me. And I thought Tawni wasn't gonna vote for me, which is a hilarious just like twist of fate. And really I was hoping that Gabby and Bryant were gonna vote for me. I'd spent a lot of time with them down the stretch of the game. I genuinely liked them. I wanted Bryant to win if it wasn't me. Like and I also think Gabby was playing a better game too than people realize. And I like learned that through working with Gabby as well. But you know, perception's reality. So I still felt good sitting next to Gabby, especially if Gabby wasn't a part of the decision to vote out Bryant, right? Which in my plans, she wouldn't have been. And so, you know, that would really be, I think, the thing that could make her a compelling winner. So yeah, I just I felt good about it, but I think we in the break room in between like a post, they like put us away and it was me, Katz, and Ryan just in a room, and we were all saying like our chances that we thought to win. And I think I gave it like 60 30 10 or something like that, where I was like 60% Katz wins, 30% I win, like 10% Ryan wins. And then Katz said he thought I won. And what's really interesting is like I think Katz saw my game because he like we were so close to attached to the hip for a lot of the game, and then you know, even when we didn't want to work together, we still were working together. So it was like, you know, it was just one of those things where like I think he saw that, and none of us expected Ryan, I think, to get the amount of votes he did, except for maybe Ryan. But you know, which is good for him. I think he had a lot better social game too than was the perception by the people left in the game at that time. And yeah, I don't know. I didn't expect to win. But I think I expected a little more votes than I got. Like maybe like a, you know, I don't know how many jurors there were, whether 9, like a 5-3-1 or something like that, where like I got 3 kind of thing. I was expecting maybe something like that, because I do think like when you look at the obstacles of the game, Katz had power and he lost it through bad gameplay. Ryan never really had power and was not an active part in taking out like his meat shields. Like they just got sniped, you know? And then I was someone who didn't have power that then got power. And I just think that like during the most pivotal points of the game. So I just think if you were like looking at those 3 stories on paper, I had a compelling case. But again, I think people vote based, and it's no fault. Like this is the jury system. Like this is Survivor, but people vote a lot of times just based on who they like the most and who like amplifies their own gameplay. And I do think Katz had it. Like I said, I think Katz was the front runner. I don't think I like played a better game than the Katz. Like I think Katz played a great game. But I do think I had a compelling case, and it sucks to like put so much into it and to like pick yourself out of that kind of emotional hole I was in to basically learn post game that the jury wasn't even listening. So like that just kind of hurts, you know, you're just like, oh crap. All right. Like I'm so glad that I fought for like an hour on the final tribal, and like poured everything into all of this, you know, to just kind of not be listened to. It kind of sucks, but like it is what it is, you know? At the end of the game, I was able to turn my game around from something I wasn't proud of to something I am. And you know, I think that like it's been a really rewarding experience to have the VL podcast. Shout out to them. Because I think, you know, it's really nice to have a third party recognize your game constantly, you know, and be like, yeah, okay, cool, people see it. Like, and yeah, so that I think that's been really nice, you know. So that's probably been my favorite part of this whole experience.
Awesome. That's fantastic. I'm glad to hear that. Obviously, we love the VL and how they dissect the games that we have here. So it's always good to have Victoria and Jabbar commenting on everything. And I mean, I'm just going to put it out there, Hathaway, going into this like last stretch of the game, because some like inside baseball here, we at production make a lot of predictions on things that are happening in the game. A lot. So when we got to final five, we like ranked everyone based on how we have our own fantasy games that we play with and our power ranking games that we play to like decide who's gonna go home and everything like that. And like I put you as the winner of the game at final five. I was like, yeah, Hathaway's got this. Like it's happening. Because I saw the game that you had outlined. I knew what was going on there. And I mean, I was also rooting for you because you were on my draft team. So
let's go.
That also helped. But I had you and Katz on my draft team, so I had some vested interest in this final stretch here. Sorry, Bryant. I mean, I have to go with the way that the draft goes.
Yeah. And also, like, none of this is to say, I think Ryan and Katz are both deserving winners. Like, I think if you get to the end, you are a deserving winner. It's just whether or not the jury sees your specific game. Yeah. And I just think it was disappointing to learn that, like, in the moment where you're supposed to be able to showcase that, to learn that a lot weren't even listening to that opportunity, right? I think that just kind of sucks.
Yeah, it is one of those unfortunate things about the jury format in general, and the fact that the jury starts essentially right at the merge, right? Yeah. When Benji gets voted out, Benji's there, and Benji's the mayor of Ponderosa. I guess that opportunity, the mayor of Ponderosa plays such an important role in like setting the tone for everything. But then as people get voted out, more information comes out and everything. So then Tawni goes there, followed by Sam, and then Cade, Erin, Jordyn. Straight through, like,
which is funny too, because Benji's question at final is about jury management with me, but then Erin asked her question and she talks about how it was round 10 and no one's thinking about jury management at that point. And I'm like, exactly. Like when I was voting out Benji or like trying to push that, I was not like considering it. And then like the undeniable best player we've all played with, we all say it, Erin immediately says, yeah, it was round 10. No one was thinking about jury management. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I wasn't thinking about it. So I don't know. It's just funny. But yeah, I think a lot of like, I don't know, the org experience was so weird. Like I just think it was, and I don't know. Like, I think if I'm just being honest, I think I walked out of this experience feeling really isolated and like, and I wanted to kind of find community and things through this. And I don't think I got it. And I don't think it's because of other people. Like, I think it is a lot of because of me. Like I always did my confessionals in private. Like I didn't do the office hours, like, and so everyone else, like I felt like got to know production better and got to how, and things like that. And so I feel, and then like to, I don't know. I just emotionally I have a lot of weird like feelings about the experience. Like even post final tribal, we all like stayed on a call for an hour. And everyone was talking to Ryan and Katz and asking them, and no one said anything to me for like a whole hour. And I was like, okay, well, bye, So I don't know. It was just like a weird experience. And I'm a very social, like loving, outgoing person. And when I play these games live, I make like lifelong best friends and like have these, and like, I don't know. It was just a weird experience. And I like, I don't know. I have a lot of weird feelings about it. And it is what it is, and I'm happy that it happened. And and I love everyone in the season. I have this might sound like shade, and it's not, but I just have like weird feelings about it. I'm like, yeah, that was weird.
I totally get that though, because I kind of feel the same way with the games that I've played in the past, where like the first game I played, I made lifelong friends. They are literally production, right? Yeah. Like they're the people that I still talk about Survivor and make Survivor games with all the time.
Yeah.
And the subsequent games I've played, I haven't felt that same type of connection to the cast that I've been with. And it's not that I dislike the cast or anything. I still feel like they're fantastic people and I love talking to them and everything, but it just doesn't have that connection. So I totally get where you're coming from with this. Yeah. With that being said, like we're super happy we have you as part of the DCP family in general.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not like, I appreciate it, but I'm, it's just like, I don't know. like it's just weird. Like I didn't even want to like do this. Like, you know, like I was like, I just feel like I'm like, I am done with orgs. Like I
Yeah.
was like, I just want to be away from this. But I appreciate like the whole experience, all the work, all the play. Like I love it all. So it's like, you know, I'm happy to do it. But like there's that weird thing inside of you where you're like, like I don't know.
I get it. I
And I
totally
can't
get
really explain it. Like it's not a person, it's not an event that happened. It's just like, yeah, I'm just like, yeah, like, you know, I don't know. I just have this weird feeling and I'm like, okay. So I think it was a great experience and I'm happy that it's over.
it. Yeah, for sure. So Brian, I do have one last question for you before we kind of wrap things up here.
Sure.
As the last juror, how are you feeling going into final tribal council? Like, how are you? Are you really analyzing the three who you were there? How much of the rest of the jury did you listen to help give you an idea of what you wanted to do in this final tribal council?
It's hard because I got voted out and then we immediately went into a jury round table.
Mhm.
And you know, I will say I don't think it was I don't think all ears were closed. I think maybe a couple
Yeah.
people were. But I know I know.
Yeah. I remember I asked it in the group chat.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I asked it in the group chat post tribal and like 4 or
Yeah.
5 people were like, yeah, it was not an open live tribal. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure not literally every year.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think for some people it was, but you know, I was really interested to hear what everybody had to say. Just, you know, it's the first time I got to hear the truth.
Mhm.
And knowing this hopefully was, I mean, obviously post game, everything's still a little shaped by your perspective. So there are like half truths and still, but you know, I really I wanted to take their perspective into account, but I was most interested in hearing what everybody had to say at final because I work in marketing. And I work in theater. I'm a storyteller by trade, and that is something that's really important to me. And I think for my vote, it was mostly that I had been attached to Katz from the beginning, so I saw the
Mhm.
game and I could really see the, you know, the route his game went, up and down and all around. So yeah, it was, and y'all did, all three of you did really great. I
Mhm.
was, it was very hard for me to choose who to vote for in that round. Not that round at the end. That's not, yeah, but
There's another round.
yeah, the new
Surprise.
it starts now. It's just you and me.
Oh, well, great. You win. I vote for you.
Yeah, no, I think you have a really good point there, and I'm really glad you also said this. That final tribal council had so much fight from all three of you sitting there, and that is something that we don't always see. And no shade to any of our former or future or
Shade.
anyone who has ever played these games, right? Like, but sometimes there is that person in the final three who is like, there's no chance this person's winning. And it didn't feel like that in this final tribal council. It felt like the jury was certain, there were certain people in the jury definitely favoring Katz with some of their questions. But aside from that, like everyone was given a fairly equal opportunity. Ryan was kind of a little short on some of his answers based on the way the time frames work for everything. And I mean, you and Katz like talking a lot sometimes, and it became kind of embarrassed in final tribal council. But in the end, like I think all three of you did a fantastic job at articulating your games, at really showing how you did. And like you said, I think any of the three of you would have been incredibly deserving winners of this season.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, I think Cats deserve to win. Like, I think
Mhm.
like he is out of that final three the most deserving winner. So I'm glad he won. I just
And
wish it would have been Bryant if it wasn't me.
I same.
Yeah.
And bless Cats, but my friend, I'm looking at you right now. You almost lost my vote with that lie about voting for me. I much I was like, that in my head made no sense. I still don't understand it. But hey, you know, I understand wanting to, you know, trying to own it, you know, make it
Yeah.
a strategy. But I was like, Ooh.
I also think there was a moment during Final Tribal, and I've seen this happen on like some other like LRGs or thing, or I think I've seen it on the Real Survivor before too. But like they asked Katz to say something nice about everyone,
Mhm.
and I knew it was basically over then, because it's like what that question is like, hey, the jury wants to vote for you, but some of us are like kind of salty, so can you like butter us up so that we
Yeah.
feel better about it? And that's the subcontext of that question. So that was kind of funny. I was like, all right.
Well,
Yeah.
actually, I'm really glad you bring that up because as I was watching Final Tribal Council, and like I tend to timestamp Final Tribal Councils, and I see that question come up, and I'm like, yeah, we can't put this in there because it's really obvious Katz wins at this point if we do
Oh,
that.
was it cut out?
Oh, it was cut down for sure.
Oh yeah. I was like, I just remember that happening and being like, ah, fuck.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. I definitely get that, but alas, like that's it. We're here at the end of the game. Thank you both for joining me. Before we put a wrap up on this, we do have one last thing to do. Bryant, if you could sum up your game in one word, what would it be?
Well, I'm not gonna play your game, okay? Because I have 2 words, and I'm
Oh
gonna do it.
shit.
You can throw a hyphen in there if you want,
Dude, you thought
but
about this.
I would say it's organized chaos.
Okay, you know what? It's 2 words, but I appreciate it because I think it does make a lot of sense and it does sum up your game quite well. So Hathaway, one word for your game.
I'm gonna go with scrappy.
That is absolutely true. I 100% agree with that.
Yep.
So thank you once again, both of you. It's been an absolute delight speaking to you tonight. As I knew it would be, there was never any questions. And thank you everyone for tuning in. I know we're at the end of the game, but there's still so much more content for you to finish consuming for Corkscrew Cove. We have another episode of After the Snuff coming out on Sunday with our second place finisher and our winner with Ryan and Katz. Monday, you'll see the reunion. We got all of these beautiful castaways back together, and you get to see how much they get to talk about. And from what I hear, there's some pretty good moments there brought to you by Hathaway. So make sure you check that out. Tuesday, you'll see all of the secret scenes. We have so much footage. We have extra stuff to show you, of course. Thursday, you'll see all of the final tribal council voting confessionals, and you'll see exactly how everyone voted. Saturday, the 28th, you get some Ponderosa videos. We don't leave our jurors out. Don't worry, you get to see them too. And then on the 30th, Monday the 30th, you'll get the draft update where you get to see which production member ended up picking the most successful draft team this season and how much they won by. And I'm just saying, it's kind of an important one to check out. So make sure you do that. Thank you once again. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel so you know when all of those videos go live over the next week. And so you know when our next season starts airing, because let me tell you, Como Bluff is coming and it is going to be worth it. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful night.